Salutations. Hope everyone had a great holiday weekend, assuming their weekend had a holiday in it. Glad to be back after a little bit of a break. Last week, I think a couple places before the Lost City came up in a couple different areas, so I thought what a great excuse, what have you, to do a read-along for it. It's been a long time since I've cracked this one open. I have the PDF here, but I do have the original as well. I'm not sure how far I will get in here today if I don't get through the whole thing. Or I'll see how long it takes. If I don't get through the whole thing, I will continue it probably tomorrow. We'll see. Oops. Anyhow, let's just dive right in. I'll read from the front first. Lost in the desert. The only hope for survival lies in a ruined city rising out of the sands. Food, water, and wealth await heroic adventurers inside an ancient pyramid ruled by a strange race of masked beings. This module includes a cover folder with maps and a descriptive booklet with a ready-made adventure for the Dungeons & Dragons basic game. It also includes enough information to continue the adventure beyond level 3 using the Dungeons & Dragons Expert. The game rules from copyright 1982, TSR. On the back, what's the back say? Oh, the back doesn't have, I guess they put the blurb on the front this time. So it doesn't have it. We also have, if we look on the back, they've got something which is nice, which is you can pick basically some fast purchases of various packs. Let me switch so I can see. Make sure, there we go. Whoop. Just put it right there. All right. So you can get some different packs. About 38, and 42 gold pieces. We've got some of the classic blue maps, of course. Let's see. Let's get. Nothing says this is a good hook that doesn't involve the party being hired for something. Yeah. It has that in media res feel, which is that phrase that's used in narrative fiction about starting in the middle of something. So instead of starting at a tavern and picking up a job and then taking the job into the desert and then something happened in the desert, you just start, bam, lost in the desert. We have some black and white. Okay, here we go. This module requires information found only in the D&D basic game rules and cannot be played without a copy of those rules. So do not try it. Don't do it. All right, part 1, the introduction. If you plan to play in this module of characters, just stop reading. Okay. Scope of the module. The basic adventure in this module is the exploration of the upper levels of a step pyramid. The party, lost in a desert, finds an ancient ruined city. The pyramid is the largest building in the ruins. So there you go. The module is designed for a party of 6 to 10 player characters of 1st through 3rd levels of experience. They don't already have characters. They've got some pre-rolled ones. If the party is weak, the DM may allow NPC retainers to strengthen the party. I don't usually like to do this myself. I usually leave it on the party to figure out, hey, are you guys weak? Then go get some NPCs. I'm not a huge fan of, as a DM, or really as a player of the DM, just inserting NPCs because they feel like you're weak. I'll let the party ride or die and let them make the adjustments as they see fit. But that's me. This is a long-term adventure designed to be completed in several sessions of play. Successful characters will probably reach 3rd level by the time they're finished with the 3rd dungeon level. The DM should not move the action too quickly, but give the players time to rest and regain spells between sessions. Note especially that the characters have no way to replace equipment or supplies except by finding items in the Lost City. And this is because there is no settlement, right? So they can't go to a nearby town and stock up. If they lose stuff or stuff gets broken, they have to find it in their adventuring. If the DM wishes to expand the adventure further, Part 5 of the module outlines a lower pyramid area. A map of a hidden underground city is also provided. The GM can develop these into an entire campaign in which the player characters find and rebuild a lost civilization. If the continent map in Module X1 is used, the lost city can be anywhere in the Alasian Desert. X1, was that Isle of Dread? Is that Isle of Dread? I think so. So if you've got that map, you can place it in the Alasian Desert. Here we get into more DM notes. It's in the modules in 6 parts. Part 1 is an intro, which we're in right now. Part 2 gives us the first dungeon level. Part 3 is the second dungeon level. Part 4 is the third dungeon level. And then Part 5 outlines the rest of the stuff that we can expand if we need to. And then there is a glossary in Part 6. This is one of those, I guess, module types that I don't think folks really dig into now, though I think people were fine with it back in the day, and that is the incomplete or open to be finished adventures. I know there are a few of those out there where they'll add in an area and basically say, oh, here, and fill this out yourself, and continue the adventure and expand it. I think people who are more coming to these more recently look at it as just sort of sloppy or lazy. But there was a real thing back in the day of trying to take these and kind of make them your own. I think Into the Unknown, or was it Into the Depths of the Earth? I forget. One of those had part of that too, and one of those was specifically as a learning experiences of here we're going to create this dungeon and we're going to show you kind of how we're doing it, and then here you kind of finish it as part of essentially like you're finishing yourself to sort of demonstrate what you've learned, or take what you've learned and now finish it. And then by the end of that, you kind of have an idea how to make a dungeon. Or in this case, it's we're going to get you in this space, we're going to kind of fill it out, and then you can take it and really flesh it out however you want to. But now I think people look at that and say, well, they should just flesh the whole thing out. I see both sides of it, right? But I always thought the filling in stuff yourself was kind of fun, and you could really just do whatever you wanted with it. But obviously, that's your mileage may vary type of deal. Okay, let's see, where were we? Before beginning this adventure, please read the module thoroughly. That's exactly what we're doing. Alright, the DM's background explains the history. The player's background is to be read to the players before the adventure begins. In the encounter keys, the encounter number matches the location of the encounter on the maps. The boxed encounter information can be read aloud to the players at the right time. Alright, we're just going to roll through that. Most of the monsters in this module are found in the second edition of the D&D Basic Rulebook, in parentheses, the red covered book. Complete information will be given for any new monsters. Enough information will be given in the room encounters and wandering monster tables that DMs with the first edition of the D&D Basic Rulebook, the blue covered basic, will be able to use all monsters in this module. So I think the first edition, are they referring to the Holmes edition? Maybe that's what they're doing. Potentially. I haven't looked back. I don't remember if there's an early version of the BX version of Basic that's blue. They might be referring to Holmes there. When monsters or NPCs are described in the text, their details will be listed in the following order. Okay. We get all that stuff, right? We can skip. Class/level is used for NPCs, while hit dice is used for all their monsters. That's fine. Okay. Let's get through this nitty-gritty. And let's see. The DM can also make a player's map by drawing the square outline of each tier or step of the pyramid on a blank sheet of graph paper. The Tier 1 map should be marked with the secret entrance and the part of the passage the characters can see from the outside. The outline of each tier can then be given to the players as needed. The DM should mark on the player's map where the party enters each tier. So you can essentially give them basically a blank map to use with just kind of where they came in starting. Doesn't seem all that useful. I'm not sure. Because, I mean, just putting in, oh, here's a big square with a little bit of an entrance in there. But I guess. Now we get to the DM background. The fall of Cynidicia. Centuries ago, Cynidicia was the capital of a rich and fertile kingdom. Its people reclaimed much land from the desert, especially during the reign of King Alexander, the last and greatest king of Cynidicia. Upon King Alexander's death, a huge pyramid was raised in his honor. This pyramid was the largest and most important building in the city. The fall of Sinidicea began on the day that workers digging under the Great Pyramid chanced upon the lair of a strange monster called Zargon. Zargon was roughly humanoid in shape, though larger than most humans. In place of arms and legs, it had 12 tentacles. Its head was that of a giant lizard, with a large black horn in the middle of its forehead. Zargon killed most of the workers, then began hunting prey at night through the streets of Sinidicea. The city guard was not able to kill the monster. At last, the city rulers began sending criminals from the jails into the pyramid for Zargon to feed on. In time, a strange cult arose that worshipped the monster as a god. The cult viewed the monster's victims as religious sacrifices. The worship of the ancient gods of Sinidicea, Gorm, Usamigaras, and Madarua, boy, my tongue is all tied this morning. Madarua was forsaken in favor of the worship of the monster Zargon. Finally, most of the citizens of Sinidicea worshipped it. The worshippers of Zargon began to look for strange pleasures. They sought oblivion in rare wines and bizarre drugs. Workers no longer repaired the irrigation ditches. Rich land returned into desert. The army lost its discipline. People outside the city rebelled or moved away as chaos spread outward from Sinidicea. Later, barbarian warriors stormed over the walls and destroyed the city. The only people of Sinidicea who survived its destruction were those who had fled underground to the vast catacombs under the city. There, led by priests of Zargon, the Sinidiceans tried to rebuild the city. The surviving people based their new life around a huge underground lake fed by channels cut through solid rock. Built in the reign of King Alexander, the lake had been the original city's water supply. On its shores, the people grew mushrooms and other edible fungi. They built houses using stones from the ruins above. The new underground city was much smaller than the ancient capital, but it was safer because it was hidden beneath the desert sands. Above, drifting sands covered the original city, and Sinidicea was lost in the vastness of the desert. Alright, so we got like kind of an interesting tale of a Durin's Bane-like creature that was awoken through work upon their greatest kings. Not really. I don't know if they were working on the tomb itself. I'm not sure. They don't really say what they were doing. I guess the pyramid was already built. Maybe they were finishing it off. But the discovering of that, the discovery or the setting loose of that creature led to the collapse of that civilization, except for a small minority who have found their way underground to live beneath the desert. The Sinidiceans. Generation after generation of Sinidiceans have lived out their lives underground. Though still human, their skin has become very pale and their hair is bone white. The Sinidiceans have developed infravision and, like goblins, attack with a penalty of -1 to hit when fighting in full daylight. Every Sinidicean wears a stylized mask, usually of an animal or human face. Some are made of wood, some of paper mache, and some of metal. They are decorated with beads, bones, feathers, and jewels. Most Sinidiceans wear fancy clothes, flashy jewelry, and carry short swords. Some paint their bodies with bright colors. The Sinidiceans are a dying race. Each new generation is smaller than the last. Most Sinidiceans have forgotten that an outside world exists, living most of their lives in weird dreams. The times when they seem normal, tending their fields and animals, are becoming fewer and fewer as the dreams replace reality. Their unusual costumes and masks only strengthen their dream worlds. Typical Sinidicean encounters are given in Part 6. Okay. So, very much a kind of creepy, weird, dying people apart. And there are factions. A few Sinidiceans are nearly normal. These Sinidiceans are trying to restore the worship of the old gods, Gorm, Usamigaras, and Madarua. They hope to stop the slow death of their society and regain the past glory of Sinidicea. So we've got the Brotherhood of Gorm. Their god Gorm is the god of war, storms, and justice. The followers of Gorm are male fighters of lawful alignment. All wear golden masks of the face of Gorm, a long-haired, bearded man with a stern gaze. Each brother also wears iron chainmail over a blue tunic. Under the armor, each has a small blue lightning bolt tattooed on his right shoulder. The brothers believe in justice tempered by mercy. They worship Gorm on the 4th day of each week and consider lightning storms to be holy. The Magi of Usamagaras. This faction worships Usamagaras, the god of healing, messengers, and thieves. They are all neutral magic users wearing silver masks of the face of Usamagaras, the smiling child. The Magi also carry silver daggers and wear rainbow-colored robes. The right palm of each is marked with small silver lines in the shape of a 5-pointed star. The Magi are usually friendly toward clerics, thieves, elves, and magic users, but look down upon fighters, dwarves, and halflings. Usamagaras is worshipped on certain days when the heavenly stars and planets are in the right patterns. The Magi record the positions of the stars and planets so that they will know when their holy days are. Then we finally have the warrior maidens of Madarua. The maidens worship Madarua, the goddess of birth, death, and changing seasons. They are neutral female fighters. The warrior maidens wear bronze masks of Madarua, a beautiful woman. They also wear bronze chainmail armor over green tunics. Each maiden has a small sickle-shaped scar on the inside of her left wrist. Madarua has a special holy day at the beginning of each of the 4 seasons. The 3 factions do not get along well. Each faction is sure that only its members know the proper way to restore the lost greatness of Synedicea. Often, when members of different factions meet, they argue or fight. It is possible for the 3 factions to cooperate, but such cooperation is rare. The bickering between the 3 factions and their attempts to restore sanity to Synedicean society give the DM the chance to add character interaction, in bold, to the adventure. Alright, well, yeah, so that's good, right? They can come in, they can interact with things. So we've got 3 factions, apart from, I suppose, really the 4th faction, which is the regular Synediceans, who maybe are just too much dazed and dreaming to be of much value. Gorm, Usamagaras, and Madarua. 2 of them are neutral, 1 of them lawful. Interesting that the one is all males and 1 is all females. I might mix that up. Just because it's a female goddess or a male goddess doesn't mean you couldn't have male or female worshippers. It might add a little bit, more variety to it. But, you could obviously do with that whatever you would like. I might just mix up and have both sexes in those particular factions. Let's see. The Brotherhood of Gorm will take male fighters, male dwarves, male halflings, and male elves as full members. The Magi of Usamagaras will take any magic user, elf, cleric, or thief. The Warrior Maidens will take female fighters, female elves, female dwarves, and female halflings as full members. So the one thing you get is through all of these, right, is anybody in the party will basically be able to get into one of these factions should they so choose. Also, any character may become a lesser member of a faction if desired. Factions will not do as much for lesser members, and a lesser member can never become powerful within a faction. The DM should decide how much a faction will do for its members. Okay, so if you don't match up, you're not a male fighter, you could still join the Brotherhood of Gorm, but you will never make it to their top rank. Same if you are a male fighter trying to join the Warrior Maidens of Madarua. And then, basically, the Magi of Usamagaras will take everybody else. I don't know if you can hear my cat wheezing a little in the background. Sorry, Bruce. Oh, here we go. Then they talk about the Priests of Zargon are a 4th faction. They are found mainly in areas outside the basic adventure. The Priests of Zargon serve the evil monster Zargon and control the underground city. So they're not really going to come into the base adventure, but they're around, and I suppose you could use them if you wanted to tie things more closely with the underground city and what's happening. Yep. My poor cat's got a cold. Some such. Alright, moving on. Player's background. So here's the boxed text, which you would get as a player would be read to you or perhaps interpreted. I'm just going to read it. Days ago, your group of adventurers joined a desert caravan. Halfway across the desert, a terrible sandstorm struck, separating your party from the rest of the caravan. When the storm died down, you found you were alone. The caravan was nowhere in sight. The desert was unrecognizable as the dunes had been blown into new patterns. You were lost. You headed east, the same way the caravan was headed before the storm. Days passed. Your mounts died, and you soon drank the last of your water. The end of the desert was not in sight. The second day after your water ran out, you stumbled upon a number of stone blocks sticking out of the sand dune. Investigation showed that the sand covered the remains of a tall stone wall. On the other side of the stone wall was a ruined city. The stone blocks of the city had toppled and cracked with the passing of time. Sand had covered most of the buildings. The stones that remained uncovered had been scoured smooth by the blowing sands. In the center of the city towered a step pyramid. It had 5 step-like tiers, each 20 feet high. The bottommost tier was almost completely covered with sand. On top of the highest tier were 3 30-foot-tall statues. The statue on the left was of a strong, bearded man holding a balance in one hand and a lightning bolt in the other. The middle statue was of a winged child with 2 snakes twinned about its body. The child held a wand in one hand and a handful of coins in the other. The statue on the right was of a beautiful woman. In her hands she held a sheaf of wheat and a sword. On the south side of the pyramid, a ramp with stairs led from the ground to the top of the highest tier. A quick search of the ruins revealed no source of food or water, so you decided to climb the pyramid. In the side of the ramp, level with the floor of the top tier, you found a secret door. ... aka bum bum bum. So a couple things here. They don't bother with all the messing around getting to the city, or even getting from the city to the pyramid, and not even getting from the pyramid to the secret entrance. They're saying, look, you just got all that done, so you're going to start out this adventure when the narrative flips to you, right? And the GM says, what do? You're already at the secret door. You see inside the pyramid, and they've already told you there's no food and water anywhere else. There's literally no reason for you to then be in that entrance and turn around and walk away and go somewhere else, because there's nothing there. And this is a good thing to do, I think, at the start of campaigns, at one-shots, other things where conceivably you don't want to spend time on the before. They've already got you covered. I think a lot of GMs will stumble with wanting to start early on, or I'm going to start them in the town, and they're going to hire onto a caravan, and the caravan's going to go into the desert, then we're going to have a storm scene, and then all this or that. But every time you add those extra steps to the beginning, one, you're just spending a lot of time before you get to the meat of the adventure, and the adventure of the Lost City is the Lost City, right? It's not all that other stuff. Second thing that can happen is that your party never gets there, because you're starting in town and you want them to hire on with the caravan, but then they don't want to go on the caravan, or they see something else that they like, or there's some other thing going on, they get into trouble. All these things happen, and suddenly you're wondering, why did my adventure run off track, and I meant for them to be on this caravan going to the desert, and they're on a ship heading to the far shores or somewhere else? How did this happen? Why? How can I get them back on track? Instead of railroading them and saying, oh, you got to go in the caravan's the only game in town, all these things, doing that, you just say, look, we're just going to start here. We're starting at the important part. We're starting at the city. And you could see where someone else might say, well, I want to start these other places. But again, each one of those just adds options that you don't really want to be there. If you don't want them to investigate other things besides the pyramid, then just take those other things away. And if you're in the middle of a campaign, that might seem a little bit too constrictive. But at the beginning of an adventure, at the beginning of a campaign, or a one-shot, it's totally fine to just say, hey, you're here. This is where we're doing. No one funnel on the chat says, start the adventure at the adventure. Exactly. You don't need to start it 10 steps ago. If this is where you mean the action to be, then just put them there. And that's kind of that in media res, which is Latin, I think, for in the middle of things. Is you just start them in the middle. You don't need to give them the setup. You don't need to give them all that stuff. Here we just gave it to you. I read it out there in 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes, all the background they need, and then bam, you're at the adventure. So just start at the adventure. I think sometimes people go wrong by trying to give people too much room, and all that room does is just confuse things. And then when the GM realizes that they've given too much space for decisions they don't actually want, then that's where you start to railroad people, and that's where the railroading becomes evident. When the party's like, no, I don't want to go to the desert, I want to go south, and somehow they're always getting to the desert. Just start them in the desert. And then nothing says it's a must for one-shots. Yes, I think for one-shots in particular, there's no reason to waste time decisions that don't matter, because you want to start them at the Lost City. The Lost City's on the shingle that they've signed up, that they've come to sign up for to play. Just get them there as fast as possible. Just put them right there. Bam. Done. Mission accomplished. Okay, so that was part 1, the intro and the background. We're at part 2 now, tiers 1 and 2, which is encompass dungeon level 1. The pyramid is made of large, smooth stone blocks. The rooms are made of bare stone slabs, except where noted otherwise. Passage ceilings are usually 10 foot high. Room ceilings are 15 foot high. Most doors will be stone slabs that push inward to open. Doors will tend to close unless held, jammed, or spiked open. Unless otherwise stated, the pyramid will be unlit. So stuff on the doors is good to know. 10 feet high is kind of your... I always feel like it's your standard. 10 foot high ceilings, 15 foot high in the rooms, and doors are going to slam shut unless you force or push them open, which is good to know. And I always like to do that for atmosphere. Parties some ways in the dungeon, then you hear doors slamming behind you. It can definitely add that tension of why is that happening, and what do we do about it, kind of thing. Okay, remember that the characters are out of food and water. They must have these supplies soon or they will die. In your descriptions, keep reminding the party they are hungry, thirsty, and tired. This will help the players roleplay. It'll give them a sense of urgency, right? You're dying. Fine, you got to find something. You are dying. Warrior is about to die. Yeah. We'll see wandering monsters now. Wandering monsters are encountered on a roll of 1 on a 1d6. Check for wandering monsters once every 2 game turns. So that's once. I believe they're talking game turns. I'm not sure if they're... Well, game turns... So the exploration turn, it's about 10 minutes. So once every 20 minutes, you're checking. Or 3 times an hour, I think. If I'm getting that correctly. And this is... Sometimes with these older modules, you may have to kind of feel it out. Are they talking about a whole, a exploration round being 60 minutes? So it'll be once every 2 hours. Doesn't seem like maybe that's too little. Or they're talking once an exploration turn, which is 10 minutes. So every 2 times, once every 20 minutes. I think that's what I would put. Of course, you can adjust it however you see fit. And then we're going to roll on a d8. Aaron Saigo says correct. Okay, I think that's probably once every 20 minutes is what he's referring to. That would be my assumption, but they use different lingo in different places, so it can get... That's something I think modern games and modern clones have done a better job as of picking a particular vocabulary. Say, that's it. Right, we're going to say exploration round. It's 10 minutes, and we're only going to use that phrase, as opposed to sometimes it's this, and sometimes we're calling it something else. Okay, so if we get a wandering monster, we're going to roll a d8. And we have a choice of giant centipedes, cave locusts, cynidicians, which they will cover in the new monsters section. But essentially humans, I'm presuming. Giant ferrets, a gnome, or a goblin. Or a number of gnomes, I suppose. I guess they're saying 6. Yeah, 6 gnomes or 7 goblins. I think I'm getting that correctly. So groups of gnomes, groups of goblins. There, and then, okay. Right, so that's all 8. And you just got, that's a nice little write-up. You can just get some quick damage and stuff for them. Get your hit points, get your armor class, get your hit dice. All good. Okay, giant centipedes are saying, yeah, you can find them in the basic rules. They got a poisonous bite, which can be rough. Cave locusts are 3-foot-long gray grasshoppers. They are immune to poison and yellow mold. Ooh, does that mean we're going to see yellow mold in here? If disturbed, cave locusts will panic and jump up to 60 feet in a random direction. 50% chance to jump toward the party. Anyone hit by a jumping locust takes 1 to 4 points of damage. Cave locusts may bite for 1 to 2 points of damage. They also shriek when frightened, having a 20% chance to attract wandering monsters. If cornered, a cave locust will spit a brown goo up to 10 feet away. And you're considered to have AC 9. So basically, it's like that old touch attack, I think, from 3rd edition, right? So you're not worried about the armor they're wearing. It's just a matter of if it hits you in general. So they give you AC 9. Character hit by the goo must save versus poison or be too weak to do anything for 1 turn. I'm guessing here 1 turn being... Are we talking 10 minutes? Or I'm going to say 10 minutes. 1 combat round seems way too short. Other characters coming within 5 feet of the victim must save versus poison or also become violently ill for a turn. The victim has the effect until the goo is washed off. So you kind of want to leave them alone. Doesn't seem much advantage to chasing them down and trying to kill them. And they're not really trying to kill you. They're just trying to get away. But that's a nice twist that if you do, I don't know, corner one or decide to take it out, that goo could make things tough. And then, of course, if you've got goo, which basically leaves you a sitting duck for any wandering monsters, that 20% chance, if they shrieked, could be the start of a sort of landslide of badness. So you got to be careful with them. And here we have another blurb about the Cynidicians. They live underground in the Lost City. They are pale-skinned, white-haired humans with large eyes and infravision. They wear masks and brightly covered robes. They will be acting out strange dreams when encountered. A dozen Cynidician encounters usable for all dungeon levels are given under... Okay, so we'll see those in Part 6. Let's see, another Aaron Seig on the chat. One of the best monsters that got left behind in later editions, in their opinion. Yeah, they're kind of cool. I like that they're... The danger of them, right, isn't in them being deadly. It's that poison really debilitating you, and then them shrieking, which can then cause other monsters to show up while you are incapacitated by the poison. So they can be really nasty, but not in a way, or in an interesting way, right? Which is, yeah, I like those kind of behaviors. You got giant ferrets. They're 3-foot-long weasels, and they hunt giant rats. They're highly unpredictable, and maybe they may attack you. The gnomes are just gnomes, as described in the basic rules. These gnomes have traveled underground in the Lost City through the tunnels and canals that empty into the underground lake. And then goblins. These goblins live in caves across the underground lake from the Cynidicians. The goblins serve Zargon. If no Cynidicians volunteer to go to Zargon, the goblins kidnap victims to feed the monster. Otherwise, the goblins do not usually harm Cynidicians. After all, if the Cynidicians died out, Zargon will start eating goblins. Yep. It's a good reason to keep the Cynidicians going. They are your food source, or your angry but malevolent god's food source. All right, so those are our random encounters. The gnomes and the goblins are interesting, and they definitely, particularly the gnomes, give you some room to, parlay and try to find out information. The gnomes will know about some of the tunnels and canals, and the goblins will know more about Zargon and the Cynidicians. And of course, the goblins could maybe try to woo some of the party to help them with something if they need sacrifices, or maybe the goblins would try to capture the party to give them as sacrifices. Because it says they kidnap them, right? They don't just murder them. So maybe Zargon likes to do his own kills, in which case that makes some nice... You can have some fun with one or more party members kidnapped and dragged off, or all the party kidnapped and dragged off. All right, so Tier 1. I'm not sure if I will read all of these. We'll see how it goes. The statue room. The box text reads, the slab of stone that hid the secret entrance to the pyramid is now held open by the dead body of a hobgoblin. The body has a large crossbow bolt sunk deep in its chest. The hobgoblin has been dead several weeks. All right, so that's a nice one, right? Because it explains why the hidden passage is open. It also gives an element of danger. This hobgoblin did not make it out. Trying to get out, got nailed by something. It was a crossbow bolt, so it is either something intelligent or potentially a trap. But it's something is there, right? Something is there that it either is technology or knows technology. So not, an ooze or something of that sort. Okay, there's nothing really else going on here. The passage floor is covered with dust. Several pairs of footprints can be seen leading inwards. In a niche in the wall opposite the secret door, the party will see a large crossbow pointed at them. The crossbow is not loaded. Okay, so it was a trap. Crossbow trap was triggered by a hidden pressure plate in the floor just inside the secret door. Hobgoblin stepped onto the plate, springing the trap. The secret door to the pyramid will swing shut behind the party unless they jam it open. It can be forced open normally. So if they move the body, the thing will shut them in. Here we have some more box text. The highest tier of the pyramid is a single 40-foot square room. The room smells old and musty. The dust on the floor has been disturbed, though no special details can be made out. 3 huge bronze cylinders reach from the floor to the ceiling in the middle of the room. In the center of each cylinder, facing you at floor level, is a bronze door. Each door has a bronze handle that can be used to pull the door open. All right, so here we get a note. So that was the box text, and now we have right afterwards a note on traps. Normally, the characters won't find traps unless they are looking for them. Traps that work automatically can be avoided by taking special precautions. The DM rolls the dice whenever characters are looking for, or thieves are removing, traps. More information on traps can be found in the basic rules. Okay. So there is a trap here. The door to the room, as usual, will swing shut unless held or jammed open. In each corner of the room are small holes that release gas into the room. The gas trap is triggered by opening the door. The gas is odorless, tasteless, and invisible. An elf or a thief has a 50% chance to hear the hiss of the escaping gas. Let me just see something. So that was trap 1B. This is room 1. Tier 1. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to show this. I'll put this on the camera for a second. Just, I know in the PDFs they put the maps in weird spots. Let me see where I can show. Whoops. I can't see my thing. Okay. Here we go. So we're talking. Right. We're talking in there. So the one door. So if they kind of came in, right, there's the trap or the secret door. Come in, they go up into the room. Gas trap all four corners of the room. I guess that is after they open the door. It didn't really mention the door in the descriptions, but assuming they open the door, they go in, they got those 3 bronze doors, and then the gas will go off. And elves or thieves have 50% chances to hear the hiss of the gas escaping. And what kind of gas is it? Does it say anything particular? Yes, it does. The gas will take 1 round to build up in the closed room before doing any damage. During this round, the characters will feel a little dizzy. Each round after the first, the gas does 1 point of damage. When they start taking damage, the party will realize it's getting hard to breathe. Rags or iron spikes jammed into the holes will stop the gas from filling the room. If both the room's door and the secret door are jammed open, the gas will escape without harming the party. If both the room's door and the secret door... Oh, I see. Okay, so what it's saying here is if the party were to have jammed the original door, the door with the hobgoblin body in it, open, so that you have... That is open. And then the other door, the door into this room is open, right? You're giving the gas an escape route into the outside. So that's what they're talking about. Again, a little bit confusing because you could read that as, are they saying if they open one of the bronze doors? But no, I think that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the outer secret door that actually was jammed open and the door into this room. So you get a couple of options there. You're going to have some time to be able to do it. I mean, if you're first level, you're sitting on 1 to, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 hit points. So not necessarily a ton of time. But hopefully having an elf or a thief who can maybe sense the gas or hear the hissing. I guess the holes aren't, maybe they're not too small, so maybe once they get the gas filling up, might be fairly easy for them to track. It doesn't say that it's super hard to find the holes, but a tough way to start. It does, enforce or reinforce that idea of keep your exits open, which is a good rule of thumb. Dungeons. I always think of Robert De Niro in the movie Ronin when he's asking about escape routes and things from this job, and one guy tries to call him out as a coward, and he's like, "No, I want to know how I'm going to get out." And this is almost a teaching moment of keep your way out clear, because in this case, if all that stuff gets shut, you may not have a chance to before you're dead. So keep your exits open. The bronze cylinders are actually the hollow bases of the statues of the Cenician gods on top of the pyramid. The cylinders will sound hollow if tapped. The doors to the cylinders are also trapped. Okay, so let's take a look at these traps. Looks like there's 3. I guess they must be slightly different. Let's see. Trap 1E is in the west wall next to the base of the left statue, which is Gorm. 4 darts will fire out of the wall when the door's handle is pulled. The darts can only hit someone standing directly in front of the door. Roll to hit as if each dart was fired by a 1 HD monster. Each dart that hits does 1 to 3 points of damage. So if you very unlucky, and that could, obviously, at first level in particular, that could kill you right there. But it's only going to hit you standing directly in front of the door, so you know you have a handle. Maybe you can figure out a way to pull it from the side. Do something else. That's the Gorm statue. The other, let's see, trap 1D is in the base of the center statue, which is Usamigaras. This one is harmless. If the party searches this area, they will find dried blood in front of the cylinder. The trap was triggered by an earlier party. Normally, 2 spears would shoot out when the door is opened. Each attack would be rolled as if a 1 HD monster was throwing the spears. If the character stayed directly in front of the door, each character hit would take 1 to 6 points of damage. The DM may have this trap reset if the party leaves and comes back. So this is, I feel like this is real. So I'm gonna do the next trap, and then I'm gonna come back to this because I think it's interesting and I think it's a good procedure, a good element. So the last trap, it's a special hinged paving stone in front of the base of the right statue. The stone will drop open when the door handle is pulled. Anyone standing in front of the door will fall to room 6 below and take 1d6 points of damage. Let's see, just checking the chat. Your Walker X says they straight up telegraph leaving the door jammed open with the hobgoblin body. Correct. They do. But a lot of folks may think, and in some ways it's not a bad idea to close that door if you think stuff may be coming from the outside. You may think outside isn't safe. Let's pull in the body, close the door. That way we're inside. But yes, they are kind of giving you this hint of maybe the door's open, maybe leave it open. But I could see how a party could decide, for smart reasons, to shut it. But the flip side of that is if you shut it, do you know you're going to be able to open it again? And in a pinch, if you need to get out, somebody's chasing you, you've also blocked your one exit, right? So I can see both sides. But yes, I do think they're kind of encouraging you, hey, the door's open, maybe just leave it open. You don't have to open it yourself. So now back to these traps. So I really like this procedure for having traps. So we have 3 doors. It's all trapped. If the party is smart, they will do some kind of check on the doors. In doing so, there is a chance that they could hit that one trap because it's a plate. It's on the bottom. So potentially, just in checking, they could set up that one trap. Assuming they don't do that, they will see the dried blood on the center one, which shows that that one is trapped. So so we know the middle door, that trap's already been sprung. There's signs have been sprung. They'll get that. Once they have that information, they should be able to take that and then say, okay, if the center one was trapped, chances are the other 2 are trapped. Now we'll know either to not open the door or do it with care or take some kind of countermeasure, right? It gives them that information. So they've set up a pattern and they've kind of showed you the key to the pattern. Hey, 3 doors. One, the door to this thing's already been trapped, right? You came in this room, you had to deal with the gas one way or another. If you make it through there, we already have this concept of doors are trapped. Now we have 3 more doors. We're reinforcing that pattern of doors are trapped because now we have 3 doors and they're all trapped, but we're going to show you that the middle one was trapped. We're going to expose that fact to you. If you're thinking smartly, that leads you to believe, okay, we should assume the other 2 are trapped. And once you make that assumption, then you can start to deal with it. You might find the plate that's in the floor. You might figure out how you can, if the one trap, you hit the trigger and then spears came out, then maybe the other might assume that at least one of the other ones might be a similar mechanism, which means figure out a way to, assuming you need to go down that way, because you could just open that middle door, and if you can go down it. But there's another option. So I like that, right? It is, you were rewarding the party that is careful, and you're also setting up your patterns. Hey, door is trapped. More doors. Those doors are trapped. In the future, come up to a door, probably want to be careful because chances are it might be trapped somewhere, right? And as your Walker X says that, hey, they love this room, so many traps, and they're all training traps. Yeah. But you know, the thing is they are training traps, but they're still lethal. Your first level at 1d6 fall could kill you. Certainly 3 darts each doing 1 to 3 points of damage if they all hit, have a pretty good chance of killing you, right? It's not that you can't die from these traps. They are training traps, but they're not training wheels. They're still going to kill you if you're not careful. Keaton Bird says, love this module. I replaced the tower of the lower tiers with Hidden Shrine of Tamawachan flipped upside down beneath the Lost City. Convenient since you start that module from the bottom tier. Anyway, that's really interesting. I have that module too. I'll have to check that one out and see how it fits. Maybe I can do that as a read-along in the near future. Okay, the bronze cylinders are hollow. A ladder going both up and down will be found inside each cylinder. Anyone climbing up a ladder will find that it goes up inside one of the statues on top of the pyramid. Each statue has a special speaking tube which allowed its priests to speak the god's will. The characters will also see a number of levers. These levers can be used to move parts of the statue, arms, head, eyes, and so on. A character climbing down any ladder will enter room 6. Alright, so pretty cool. And I could definitely see if you wanted to have some fun with things happening that they could use that statues in some kind of way. But it's a nice little detail, right? It doesn't really mean anything to the module, but it adds that kind of flavor of what this city might have been like when it was inhabited, which is a nice touch. Whoops, let me get back here. Okay, we are on to Tier 2, and I will show the map from the... And notice these are small levels, right? Let me just get back, right? Small levels. Tier 2. It's got, so 12 rooms. So Tier 1 basically had one room and a hallway. Tier 2 has 12 rooms and a couple hallways. Okay, let's see. I will start reading some of this box text and we'll see if I want to keep going or start skipping around. Okay, so I'm gonna skip to 6 just because that's where you're supposed to be landing. A 10-foot radius circle at the foot of each ladder is lit by a glowing 2-foot long beetle. Each beetle has 3 glowing spots. So assuming you climb down and you don't get dropped down, because you could also get dropped down, that was one of the traps. You will see these beetles before you can reach them. They are fire beetles. Each beetle has 3 glands that glow and give off light for a 10-foot radius. The glands will continue to glow for 1 to 6 days after they are removed. Hint, hint. The beetles are hungry and will attack if disturbed. So that's information for the GM, not the players, but players might get the hint. But here you have, hey, you might not have torches, but you can stick some fire beetle glands on the end of a stick, and there you have kind of a convenient fantasy glow stick, as it were. The room holds spare parts for the machinery inside the statues. There are several large covered clay pots. These pots held oil to lubricate the machinery. The oil has almost evaporated over the centuries, even though the pots were sealed. The party can recover 6 flasks of oil that were burned poorly and make thick clouds of smoke if lit. It will take 2 turns to recover all the oil. So 20 minutes, just in time for a random encounter. Check. Random wandering monster check. There's also a small foundry here for fixing broken statue parts. It has a forge, an anvil, tongs, and hammers, and so on. So you're probably not going to have anybody who can actually use that forge. But it might be something you could remember to come back to if you make friends with one of the factions and they have somebody, or if maybe your backstory is that you were a blacksmith, maybe you could use it. I suppose it does have a hammer here. Maybe you could use it as a throwing hammer, if you so chose. So as far as supplies for moving forward, we have fire beetle glands and also some smoky oil. Not good for lighting things, but you can use it, and you could also just use it for smoke if you had to escape. If you tested it and saw how smoky it got, you could actually use it to try to, as a distraction or as a cover, as a screen to get away from something. All right, so now I'll go back to going through the key in numerical order. So we have a storage room. Contains rotting bales of what might be cloth and dusty crates. The room smells like it's been closed off for a long time. A secret room. Inside this room, you see 7 bird-like creatures with long beaks like tubes. A faint glitter catches your eye from the center of the room as the bird-like creatures fly towards you. All right, so these are sturges, and they're just going to attack you. Sturges are pretty nasty. Once a sturge attack hits, its beak attaches to the victim. The sturge sucks blood for an automatic 1 to 3 points of damage every round until either the victim or the sturge is dead. The glitter comes from 4 gems lying in a pile of dust. The gems are worth 100 gold pieces, 100 gold pieces, 500 gold pieces, and 1,000 gold pieces. The room also has a smallish hole high in the north wall. The sturges fly through the hole when they go out hunting at night. Are sturges desert birds? I don't know. But that's a nice little encounter. Obviously, it's dangerous, but you do get some treasure if it's there, so it's a little bit of a lair. I guess it is, technically, I guess it is the Sturgis lair, even though they don't call it that, right? It's where they come back, where they seem to nest and hang out, and presumably we could assume those gems maybe come from stuff that they've eaten and then pooped out. Poop. Priest quarters. The room is sparsely furnished with rotting furniture. This includes a bed, a desk, a chest, a writing table with a wooden chair, and a wooden holy symbol shaped like a lightning bolt. All of the furniture is covered with a thick layer of dust. On the floor lies the body of a dead hobgoblin. The body looks several weeks dead. Its left arm is swollen and discolored. Okay, so this is Hobgoblin 2 that we found, right? So the first one was, we can then maybe get a case that the first one was trying to escape and didn't get out the door. Was trying to pull it open, hit the pressure plate, got nailed with the crossbow bolt. Potentially, we would assume that this might be someone from that same hobgoblin party. And its left arm being swollen and discovered speaks to poison, I would guess. This room was once the quarters of a high priest of the Brotherhood of Gorm. The hobgoblin was killed by a killer bee from room 7. His body has a full water bottle and a purse with 135 silver pieces and 40 gold pieces in it. Otherwise, the room is empty. So you do get some water here. And a few coins. It doesn't look like any other things are on the body. It didn't mention any armaments or anything, so potentially no weapons or anything like that, just the water. We have a fireworks storeroom. This room seems drier than the rest of the pyramid. In the center of the room are a half dozen small crates. Seated on the crates are nearly a dozen 1 foot tall winged people. They are talking a strange musical language and laughing merrily. Okay, so these are sprites. They will be friendly and chatter merrily if approached in a friendly manner. They are interested in everything, but nothing holds their attention long. They will not join the party, but the DM may use them to hint about what lies ahead. If attacked, 5 sprites acting together can cast 1 curse spell. The curse will take the form of a magical practical joke, like suddenly making the fighter's armor turn into a pile of rust, or gluing a character's boots to the floor. Sprites will cast 1 or 2 curses and fly away through a 1-by-1 concealed door high in the northeast wall. If pursued, they will try to escape by flying over the green slime in room 8. The crates contain fireworks packed in sawdust. There is only a 1 in 1d6 chance that a crate of fireworks is still usable after all this time. Any usable crate of fireworks is worth 100 gold pieces resale value. Ancient priests of Sinaiticea use the fireworks to help fake miracles. If the players decide to keep the fireworks, a usable crate contains 1 to 6 charges of flash powder, 2 to 8 Roman candles, 1 to 4 skyrockets, and 3 to 4 strings of small firecrackers. The DM should only allow these firecrackers to make a lot of smoke, bright lights, and noise. The firecrackers should not do any damage or cause blindness. Alright, so we've got fireworks and we've got sprites. Chances are the party's not going to be able to kill the sprites, but if they're friendly, they can get some information. If they are unfriendly, they might get some wicked, nasty curses thrown at them. We have some fireworks. Interesting that they tell you how you can resell the fireworks potentially, but where are you going to resell them? I'm not sure who's going to take them, and it's a crate, so you got to carry a bunch of fireworks, a crate for fireworks with you, I suppose. But you could take them, you could do some interesting things with them, but you're not going to blind people, and you're not going to damage them. So you have to think up some other interesting uses for fireworks if you should choose to use them. Okay, pottery jars. 4 foot tall pottery jars, they just got sand in them. They were used as if a fire broke out in the fireworks room. We have a special storeroom. 10 foot tall radius circle at the foot of each ladder. Oh, that's where we started, so I won't read that again. Treasure room. In the center of the room, you see a 10 foot tall cage. In the bottom of the cage is a pile of coins and gems. Hanging from the top of the cage is a giant beehive. Several large, 1 foot long bees are buzzing around the room. The mesh of the cage is wide enough for them to fly through. There's a 1 foot square hole high in the south wall. The locked cage holds the treasure of the Brotherhood of Gorm. The treasure is guarded by 5 killer bees. No B. Brian Blair. Not that Clear Bees. That's a bad joke of 80s wrestling tag teams. Okay, the Killer Bees have learned that persons wearing a Mask of Gorm are friendly. They will not attack anyone wearing the Mask of Gorm unless attacked first. So if you were to go and become a Gorm follower or otherwise interact with Gorm followers, you might be able to get some masks, but initially, you're probably not going to have them. The Killer Bees will automatically attack any other persons who go into the room. If the bee attack is successful, the sting victim must save versus poison or die. The bee will die after the stinging. Even characters who save must take 1 round to remove the stinger. Otherwise, the stinger will continue to work its way into the victim, doing 1 point of damage per round. Ouch. The treasure lying on the bottom of the cage is 2,000 silver pieces, 500 gold pieces, 2 gems each worth 100 gold pieces, and 1 piece of jewelry worth 700 gold pieces. The bees inside the hive will not attack the party unless the hive itself is attacked. Inside the hive are 4 more bees with 1 hit die each, and a 2 hit die queen bee. The queen, unlike all other killer bees, can sting repeatedly without dying. A special kind of honey is found inside the beehive. If eaten, the honey acts as a as a 1/2 strength potion of healing, curing 1 to 4 points of damage. All the honey in the hive is needed to cure 1 character of 1 to 4 points of damage. So, got some killer bees. You could potentially get around them if you've interacted with the Brotherhood of Gorm, and that's something that maybe the sprites could have told you if you were friendly to the sprites. Could have gained some information. You do get basically half a healing potion if you manage to get the honey, but the bees can also be fairly nasty, especially the queen. Then we have an abandoned room. The entire floor of this room is covered with green oozing slime. Otherwise, it's empty. That green oozing slime is a green slime. Bum-ba-dum-bum-bum. Green slime can only be hurt by fire or cold. It dissolves wood and metal in 6 rounds. If it touches flesh, it will turn the victim to green slime in 1 to 4 rounds. After the first 6 rounds, green slime can be burned off, but this does half damage to the slime and half damage to the character. It will turn the victim to green slime in 1 to 4 rounds. After the first 6 rounds, green slime can be burned off. It's a little bit confusing. I don't remember exactly how green slime works in this edition. I have to go back and look, but in any case, it's nasty. Going to be pretty tough to deal with for first level characters. They probably won't have anything cold, but they will potentially have fire. But those glands won't work from those beetles if they didn't have torches. But there was the oil that they could have gotten from the other room. Or they could just leave and leave it alone. Abandoned priest quarters. The room contains an old bed, writing table, chair, and a chest. From the looks of the furniture, the quarters have been long abandoned. From behind the bed comes scuffling sounds. Suddenly, you see the head of a large pale blue lizard with orange spots that bursts suddenly into view. It's a gecko, but probably not the Geico gecko. It is munching on the body of an unfortunate Sanidician. If the party enters the room without looking up, they will be surprised by a second gecko that drops down from the ceiling. The mask worn by the Sanidician is of some bird-like creature. It is inlaid with gold and worth 80 gold pieces. So if you were to get you can get a mask from the body, otherwise you got to deal with those 2 geckos, one of which is going to try to drop down and surprise you. They do pretty good damage, 1 to 8, so certainly not to be trifled with. We have another abandoned priest quarters. This room looks like this room might once have been the quarters of a cleric, but it looks like it has been abandoned for a long time. It contains musty, dust-covered furniture, a sleeping pallet, a writing desk with a wooden stool, a chest, and a wooden holy symbol that looks like a balance. Got nothing of value. Is that? So nothing in there, but just a pallet and stuff. Okay, now we get to the Brotherhood of Gorm. The room contains 3 double bunk beds. 5 men are seated on the lower bunks talking. Each man wears iron chainmail over a blue tunic. All wear steel helmets, and each man's face is covered by a golden mask. All their masks are the same. They show a long-haired, bearded man with a stern gaze. The 5 men belong to the Brotherhood of Gorm. If the party don't attack, then the men may ask them to join the Brotherhood. The DM may decide this or roll 2d6. A roll of 9 to 12 means the party will be asked to join. A roll of 6 to 8 means the party members may join but will not be asked. A roll of 2 to 5 means the brothers will assume the characters are thieves or spies and attack or drive them away. So essentially they're saying you're rolling a reaction roll. And the better the reaction, the more favorable they are. In this case, the more favorable they are means they're more likely to ask you to join them. Let's see. Only male fighters, dwarves, halflings, and elves of lawful alignment may become full members, but any character may become a lesser member. Characters who want to join the Brotherhood will be taken to room 12, which is the Grand Master of the Brotherhood of Gorm. If fighting starts, the Brothers of Gorm in room 12 will hear the fighting and rush to help their fellow brothers. The room contains the brothers' equipment, including food and water. The only treasure is the brothers' masks, which are worth 100 gold pieces each. We have a statue of Gorm. At the end of the corridor, you see a glittering statue. The statue appears to be a smaller version of the bearded man wielding a lightning bolt you saw on top of the pyramid. The statue may appear at first to be made of gold. Actually, it is a wooden statue painted with golden paint. It is man-sized and firmly set into a heavy stone base. The statue of Gorm has no gold piece value. It just looks golden, but it's just wood. Grand Master of the Brotherhood of Gorm. The room has 3 double bunk beds along the walls. 6 men stand around the room talking. All wear chainmail armor over blue tunics. Each man also wears a steel helmet and a golden mask. The masks look like a long-haired, bearded man with a stern gaze. Right, so more Brothers of Gorm. One of them, let's see, is the tallest, oldest man is Canadius, the Grand Master of the Brotherhood of Gorm. He wears a fancier helmet. He also gives all brothers a morale of 9 when they're with him. So he is a good leader, so they get better morale when he's around. Canadius is stern-looking, but basically kindly. He prefers to outmaneuver opponents, but is brave if fighting is necessary. He is somewhat absent-minded with unimportant details, but not with major ones. He leads his men rather than orders them. Under his leadership, morale is high. If the party attacks, the brothers in room 11 will rush out to the aid, right? So depending on where you come in, you're going to get a bunch of brothers if you attack. There is a secret trapdoor behind one of the beds in the southeast corner of the room. If the party attacks and is winning, Canadius may try to escape through this door. It leads down into the secret chamber next to room 24 on tier 3. Unless their morale fails, the brothers will fight to help Canadius escape. If Canadius is attacked and escapes, the DM may create a special encounter for later in the adventure. The encounter would be with Canadius and a dozen Brothers of Gorm who try to revenge their fellows. The special encounter could replace a wandering monster encounter, or it could happen at some place the DM chooses. So that's cool, right? So if you make an enemy of Canadius and he gets away, he's going to try to come back and with reinforcements to get you. This area contains the equipment of the brothers, including food and water. The masks are worth 100 gold pieces each, and his helmet, Canadius' helmet, is a helmet of telepathy, usable 3 times each day. Ooh, that's a nice one. If the party does not attack, the brothers may ask them to join, and again, they're going to roll some kind of reaction to see if they decide to or not. Before anyone actually joins, Canadius will secretly test their sincerity with the helm of telepathy. As DM, ask the player whether his or her character is sincere. Make it clear that you, as the DM, may forbid the character to take certain actions later that go against what the player decides now. Then ask for the player's decision. All right, so that is an interesting idea. So if you join the Brotherhood, your character, Canadius is testing whether the players truly want to join and be a part of the Brotherhood. So really, so this helm is essentially, and what the GM's supposed to tell you is that, look, this is a sincere choice. And if you make the sincere choice, you can't just be callous and throw it away later, because they would have detected that with the helm. The whole power of the helm here is to decide whether you're just saying so now for a momentary gain, and then you don't really mean it. So if you really mean it, then you can't do something later, which would have meant that you didn't really mean it. So what they're saying is you're kind of setting up this paradox. If you're not, because he's testing you, you can't simply be flippant and say what you think you need to say in that moment, because they'll know. So you have to mean it. And if you mean it, that's going to affect your decisions later. And as a GM, I'm going to hold you to it. So it's pretty interesting, right? It's, you can, decide whether you feel like how you want that to play out. But by road, it is sort of limiting the player's agency in the future. I know agency is a big buzzword now, and people are very careful about what to do with agency. But the idea here is the helm is setting a precedent, and because the helm would know if you didn't mean it, you have to mean it, which means that kind of sets your future path. It's kind of cool, but you got to keep track of it too. Okay, so again, only males and fighters, dwarves, halflings, and elves of lawful alignment can join fully. We'll see. If they do, they'll be taken to room 24 on the 3rd tier for an initiation ceremony. Other characters, if they're accepted as lesser members, will be given a necklace with a small golden mask of Gorm attached. So I guess lesser members don't get the real masks. Regular members will be given tunics, masks, and any normal armor or weapons they might need. The Brotherhood has another stronghold deep in the underground city. Extra masks and necklaces are stored there. It will take about half a day for a messenger to go to the stronghold and return with extra masks and necklaces. While the party waits, the Brothers of Gorm will aid the party against wandering monsters. The DM may also treat the Brotherhood's rooms as quote-unquote safe, free from wandering monsters. The party can rest, rememorize spells, and so on if they stay long enough. Alright, so, a couple things, right? If you join, you got to kind of hang out and wait for the equipment to come, but you get equipment and you also get a safe place to stay if you need it. And you could just become lesser members to do that too. So that's kind of cool. Alright, so part 3. How am I looking at? So I'm about an hour in, and I'm now at tiers 3 and 4. Well, let's see what I can get through. I probably got to stop. I guess I probably can't go for more than another hour. So I probably got to sign off at 2. So let's see what I get through here. The second level of the dungeon consists of tier 3 and 4 of the pyramid. Let's take a look again and find tiers 3 and 4. So now the tiers are obviously getting bigger as you go down. Oops. Tier 3. Tier 4, and then we can see tier 5. Whoa, ran into my mic. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, we get some different wandering monsters. Nice. Let's see. The second level, the dungeon consists of tiers 3 and 4 of the pyramid. Tier 3 includes rooms 13 and 24. The third tier contains the headquarters for the Brotherhood of Gorm, the Magi of Usamigaras, and the warrior maidens of Madarua. I don't know why those names are giving me trouble today, but they are. These can become safe areas for characters who join these groups. Tier 4 includes rooms 25 through 40. It holds the burial chambers of King Alexander, Queen Zenobia, and many important court officials from their time. Zenobia. I've seen Zenobia come out. Where's that name? Where have I heard that name before? And many important court officials from their time. The revolving passage. The central area is the most unusual feature of the third tier. It houses a passage on a turntable. A machine-like system of weights and counterweights makes the passage turn. On the wall inside each end of the revolving passage is a row of 8 buttons. They match the buttons in the halls. When one of the inside buttons is pressed, the end of the passage will swing clockwise to line up with the proper hall. A door to the central area will open only if the revolving passage is lined up with it. Next to each door to the revolving passageway is a button with a symbol on it. When the button is pressed, the passage swings clockwise to line up with the door, making faint grinding noises. If the passage is already lined up with the door, nothing happens. Alright, so that could take some investigation to be figured out. It's kind of a Wonkavator. And they show it here in the map. Right, with the circle showing how it spins. Wandering monsters down here are still 1 in 6. And we're going to still check it once every 2 game turns. We're still rolling 1d8. We get some different ones now. So we get giant bats, Brotherhood of Gorm, Cynidaceans still, hobgoblins, but we're also now getting also getting. Basically, we're getting these faction groups. So in not just the Brotherhood of Gorm, but also the Magi of Usamagaras, and the warrior maidens of Madarua. You get a spitting cobra snake and a rock baboon, or multiple rock baboons, and some hobgoblins. So the hobgoblins are loose. Giant bats. I guess I won't go through the... let's see. They're all basically standard. Let's see. If a character's killed by the... hold on a minute. Oh, I guess I should. Okay, so the giant bats. They see by echolocation. One of the giant bats encountered is a giant vampire bat. Any creature bitten by this bat must save versus paralysis or fall unconscious for 1 to 10 rounds. Any character killed by the bite of a giant vampire bat must save versus spells or become an undead creature 24 hours after death. And the DM chooses what kind of undead creature. Okay. So just one of those bats is a vampire bat. Let's see, the spitting cobra. Spitting cobra, it has a point. It aims. Well, it tries to squirt a stream of venom, which it can do up to about 6 feet. Aims for the eyes. If the venom hits, the victim must save versus poison or be blinded. While the snake will usually spit its venom, it may bite instead. If a victim is bitten, it's got to save versus the poison or die. Let's see, note on blindness. In the D&D basic rules, a blinded character cannot attack. The DM may allow attacks at -4. So almost basically disadvantage. Close enough. The DM may create special ways to cure blindness. For example, the DM might allow washing the victim's eyes with holy water, then casting a Cure Light Wound spell on the victim. The cure spell would not restore any lost hit points if it was used to heal blindness. Instead of being immediately cured, sight might return in 1 to 6 turns. So essentially they're saying, look, you're going to be blinded. You're low levels. You're probably not going to have a cure for blindness. But as a DM, hey, be open to them coming up with interesting solutions. And they give you one. Combination of washing their eyes out with holy water. I don't know why holy water specifically. It's not an undead cobra, but hey, sure. Holy water and then a Cure Light Wounds. Essentially just be open to your players trying to figure out a way to get unblinded. Because, yeah, it's not going to be fun if a bunch of them get blinded. Or even one of them gets blinded, right? So be open to solutions. Thinking outside the box a little bit. We got Warrior Maidens. Okay, DM's note. The outcome of an encounter with one of the 3 factions often depends on previous encounters. For example, characters who have joined the Brotherhood of Gorm and are wearing its masks or necklaces will likely find a group of Warrior Maidens unfriendly, if not openly hostile. And of course, it means if you are a member of the Brotherhood of Gorm and you encounter Brothers of Gorm, it's not going to be even a potentially combat encounter. It's going to be friendly. And now we get the key to the passage symbols. Into the actual keyed rooms, we have an abandoned ceremonial chamber. This room is a ruined chapel of some kind. Tattered tapestries hang from the walls. A dusty altar along the north wall is covered with a rotted altar cloth. The candlesticks, offering bowl, and holy symbol on the altar are carved out of wood. The holy symbol looks like an eye. Next to the altar, you see a 6-foot-long lizard with wide flaps of skin between its legs. It's a Draco, this lizard. And there's a human thief, remains at least, behind the altar. But he does have a full canteen and some gold and some gems. The candlestick, bowl, and holy symbol are made from a rare wood, which gives them some value. The Magi Usamegaras. Quarter's been painted black with tiny white stars. It's got an iron door with a star carved into it. If they open the door, a bell will ring, but no other trap. Chamber of the Magi. Along the north and west walls of this room hangs a large tapestry showing the major constellations. You have interrupted a religious service. 13 figures in rainbow-colored robes and silver masks stand in front of a stone, star-shaped altar. The masks match the face of the middle statue of the pyramid, the winged child. The centermost figure of the group wears a silver crown. Alright, these are all worshippers. The worshippers are all the Magi of Usamagaras. 12 of them are first level magic users. The one with the crown's name is Auriga Cirkinos, and the chief mage, they say, as a third level magic user. Each mage has silver lines forming a small star symbol on the palm of his or her right hand. Stout Amiga, Auriga Cirkinos, Amiga, appears to be jolly and fun-loving. His mirth actually hides a ruthless personality. He is a fanatic who will do anything to promote the cult of Usamagaras and his own power. He tries his best to hide this under a pleasant manner. While he will welcome the party, he will also do his best to ensure that he personally retains the most power in the cult. However, if it comes to a choice between the Magi of Usamagaras or the personal power of Auriga Cirkinos, he will choose personal power. So you get a little way to get to him. If you can sift this part of his character, that he is a power-hungry fanatic, you can potentially use that to your advantage. If the party attacks, the 12 first-level magic users each have a different spell. Each has one of the 12 first-level spells listed in the basic rules. Charm Person, Detect Magic, Floating Disc, Hold Portal, Light, Magic Missile, Protection from Evil, Read Languages, Read Magic, Shield, Sleep, and Ventriloquism. Okay, so only a couple of those are, without really thinking it through, going to be useful in battle. Auriga Cirkinos has the spells Detect Magic, Hold Portal, and Phantasmal Force. Those with attack spells will cast them at the party. Those with defensive spells will cast them. All will attack the party hand to hand, though Auriga will run through the door and cast Hold Portal on it if things are going badly. So a little bit of a break, because right, if all 12 had Magic Missile, that would be tough. Hidden inside the stone altar is a secret compartment. It is protected by a poison needle trap. Anyone who tries to open the compartment without finding or removing the trap will trigger it. Inside the apartment is a +1 mace and a wand of magic detection with 5 charges. Silver masks are worth some coins. Crown's worth 200. Each magic user also has a silver dagger, which is worth a little bit of coin. If the party doesn't attack, they may learn that the Magi of Usamagaras is another cult trying to restore the lost glory of Sanidicea. All current members are Sanidicians, but the Magi are willing to let outsiders join. The DM can decide this or roll 2d6. I'm not going to go through the 2d6 stuff again because it's essentially your reaction roll. Subtract 3 from the roll if the party shows any signs of belonging to one of the other groups. So it's kind of interesting, right? You could kind of join multiple groups, hiding your equipment of one group to join another one, and then potentially try to swap out equipment when you're trying to deal with different factions. Obviously, if you get caught, that's big trouble, but could get some advantage from it. You can add 2 to the roll if the party can convince the Magi that the party has defeated members of another cult. So there's some interesting options there. What if you joined the brothers, took the masks, but then when you went to see the Magi, you tell them that you took the masks off some brothers that you defeated? Now there's some thinking. Only magic users, elves, thieves, and clerics may become full members. Anyone else can become only a lesser member. Full members will be initiated by placing their right hand on the center of the altar, palm down. They then recite the pledge. I do hereby pledge to serve and obey the great Usamagaras. When he or she says the name Usamagaras, a 5-pointed star will be magically burned into the character's palm. Full members will be given silver masks, daggers, and rainbow-colored robes. Lesser members will not be initiated, will be given a silver ring carved with Usamagaras' face. The robes, masks, daggers, and rings are kept in a stronghold in the underground city. It will take about half a day for them to be fetched. While the party waits, the Magi will aid them against wandering monsters and will provide food and drink. And it can be a safe area. So, the same boilerplate as with the other faction. The quarters of the Magi of Usamagaras. This room contains 6 double bunk beds. At the foot of each bunk bed are 2 wooden chests. The room looks clean and well kept. In the chest are footlockers. Nothing too much in there. Quarters for the chief mage of Usamagaras. This is a comfortable looking bedroom that shows signs of recent occupation. Chained to the foot of the bed is a gray wolf. The wolf growls when the door is opened. The wolf was captured as a cub and has been trained to act as a watchdog. It is guarding the personal funds of Auriga Circanos. 2,500 silver pieces, 200 gold pieces. They're kept locked in a locked metal chest under the bed. There's an abandoned store room filled with shelves. Most of these are empty, but some contain old crates. The shelves are covered with dust and a vile yellow-looking fungus that grows in thick, large clusters. The yellow fungus is yellow mold. The mold covers shelves along all four walls. Each 10-foot square of the room has 2 hit dice worth of mold covering it. Hence, there are 6 separate sections of mold, each with 9 hit points. Yellow mold can only be killed by fire. If it is touched, there's a 50% chance the mold will shoot out a 10 by 10 by 10 foot cloud of spores. Anyone caught in the cloud takes 1 to 6 points of damage and must save versus death ray or choke to death within 6 rounds. There's nothing of value in the crates. Yeah, yellow mold is pretty darn nasty. So you generally want to leave it alone. Of course, your first level might not know that. Here you're going to find out. Mess around with yellow mold and find out. Let's see. We have a water trap. When a human-sized character crosses the room, the GM rolls 1 to 6. On a roll of 1 or 2, the trap is sprung. Both doors slam shut, and water pours into the area from vents high up in the walls. Unless the trapped character forces open a door within 3 tries, or thinks of some way to breathe, he or she will drown. That's lovely. Once the room fills with water, concealed drains in the floor open, the water drains out, and the trap automatically resets. If a character opens the door to room 18 while the water is pouring in, the water will rush into room 18. The water will overturn the basket and free the pit vipers inside it, then disappear down concealed drains. It's kind of like the trap that keeps on giving. If you're able to bust out one of the other doors, you're going to free some critters for you to deal with. All right, this room looks empty. This is a secret room, which you can open from the water trap room. The room looks empty except for a large wicker basket in the middle of the room. Coiled atop the pile of treasure in the basket are 2 5-foot-long pit vipers. The bite of the snakes is poisonous. Pit vipers always attack first due to their quickness. No initiative roll is needed. The wicker basket contains 3,000 gold pieces and 5 gems. You gotta deal with those snakes, and they're going first. And it's poison. It's a tough gig, but you can get some treasure out of it. I suppose it might actually be good to knock over the basket, because you could potentially, the vipers may go elsewhere. Maybe you could even roll to see if they go down the drain with the water. So I was thinking it was a bad thing to knock the basket over, but it might be a good thing, actually. Who is to say? Shifting wall. At the end of this short corridor is an 8-foot-tall bronze statue of a winged child with 2 snakes twined around its body. It holds a wand in one hand and a handful of coins in the other. The statue looks firmly connected to the wall. The statue is hollow and hides a shifting wall. If the wand is pulled left, the wall shifts westward to the end of the hall. It will block the last 10-foot section of the hall. The wall will stay there for 3 turns, then move back to its original position. If the wand is pulled right, the statue will breathe out a cloud of choking gas. The gas cloud covers the 30-foot length of the corridor. Anyone who stays in the area will take 1 point of damage per round from the gas. The gas will disappear in 2 turns, 120 rounds, so 20 minutes. There's only 1 gas charge in the statue. The Magi recharge the statue when necessary. So it can only happen once over some period of time, but it is also saying that it could potentially get recharged. Storeroom filled with crates and barrels. We've got some brown beetles. And there's some dry food here. It is edible. We have an abandoned ceremonial chamber. Looks like a ruined chapel has been looted and deliberately racked. The stone altar has been smashed and no ceremonial equipment can be seen. The word Zargon has been scrawled on one wall in large letters. So this was a ceremonial chamber to the old gods, but it was wrecked by followers of Zargon ages ago. Except for the wreckage, nothing's here. We have an entrance to Tier 4. 20-foot long section of the floor in the southern part of the room has been hinged to swing down to the west when anyone steps on it. It swings slowly down to rest against a ramp in room 38. The hinged floor section is the entrance to Tier 4. Characters can walk down the floor section to room 38. So it's not really a trap. You're not going to slide down and be forced down it, but you can get down it. Here we get more. So it looks like we're going to get into the section that's controlled by the warrior maidens. Maybe I will end. Let's see. I don't know how much left is on the floor, but I might kind of wrap up this. Call it part 1 of the stream after this section. Arch of the Warrior Maidens. You see 2 10-foot tall statues of women fighters. Fighters wear masks with the face of the female statue on top of the pyramid. The 2 statues stand with spears outstretched to form an arch. The only way down the corridor appears to be in single file under the crossed spears. Just beyond the arch, formed by the spears, is a hidden pressure plate in the floor. Each time someone steps on the plate, a hidden chime rings in room 23. The chime warns the warrior maidens that someone is approaching the shrine and reveals how many are in the party. So sneaky. So an interesting trap. You might think something's going to happen, the spears are going to slam down on you. Not the case, but you're going to lose your chance to surprise. But you could potentially find the pressure plate. But it's interesting because it's like a trap camouflaged by the threat of another trap, because you're more likely to check the other stuff and not be worried about the other side of it. And then that's where it gets you. The warrior maidens, oh, sorry, I missed the part. The Chamber of Madarua. The door to the room is locked. If the party cannot unlock the door, it can be battered down in one turn. If the door is battered down, the warrior maidens in room 23 will come to investigate. I mean, you can look at that. Isn't that kind of a fail-forward technique right there? Right? It's, hey, if you can't unlock it, you can batter it down. There's no roll. There's no chance of not doing it, but the consequence of battering the door down is they're gonna obviously know you're there and come investigating. So again, surprise is lost. Near the northeast corner of this room is an altar covered with a green and white cloth. On the altar sits a 3-foot-tall statue of a woman holding a sword and a sheaf of wheat. To each side of the statue burns a large white candle. In front of the altar itself, incense burns in 3 small braziers. White drapes hang on all the walls, and the floor is covered by a green carpet. The room is dust-free and has been scrubbed clean. Except for the ceremonial equipment, the room appears empty. The warrior maidens of Madarua keep their shrine clean, with candles and incense burning all year round. Okay, I'm not going to ask where they're getting a constant supply of candles and incense, but we'll just write that off. Let's see. From tiny holes in the walls, hidden by the white cloth hanging, the warrior maidens in room 23 can hear any loud noises. The sound carries through room 22, which also has been fitted with listening holes. The warrior maidens will investigate any loud noises. If any party member has desecrated the shrine, the warrior maidens will attack. So, a couple things here, right? The pressure plate and the entrance. They had to bang down the door. You should probably really take the time to set up where those maidens are, what they're doing. I think for them, if I'm them, I might not just be in this room waiting for them. I might wait to see what they do. Wait in those other rooms. You're kind of giving the party really that rope to hang themselves if they want to. Oh, I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna get a really good look at you. I may know how many you are from the first trap, but now I'm gonna get a better idea of exactly who you are. Right? I'm assuming that if there's a magic user, they're gonna look fairly magic user-ish. If there's a thief, they're gonna look roguish and fighter, whatever, cleric, same. So I'll check that out, and then I get a good sense of what you're about by how you treat this altar area. If they go in and just start tearing it apart, then that's the cue, and they know they've seen all they need to see. If they're respectful, then maybe you can get a bonus to your reactions, or just they get a better better look at you, and maybe they will be friendlier towards you. The treasure room of the warrior maidens of Madarua. The room appears to be empty except for a large stone vault in the middle of the east wall. The vault has a keyhole. It looks like the stone slabs that make up the vault are too heavy to be moved. Stone vault contains the treasure of the warrior maidens. It is trapped. Any character standing in front of the keyhole who tries to open the vault and fails will be hit by a large stone block that falls from the ceiling. The stone block will not fall if the key is used or the lock is successfully picked. The stone block does 2 to 12 points of damage. The warrior maidens in room 23 will hear any loud noises in this room. The treasure is 600 electrum, 1,000 gold, and 300 platinum. I think that's the best haul of any of these factions as loot hordes. Warrior maidens of Madarua. 10 women are seated around a table. They all wear bronze chainmail over green tunics. Each woman's face is covered by a bronze mask of the face of the woman whose statue is atop the pyramid. The leader is Pandora, Madarua's champion, the tallest and oldest of the women. She's got a sword +1, has a +2 bonus in combat from strength, and she does the same thing as the leader of the Gorm brothers, having a positive morale effect while she's active. And she's also got the key to the treasure vault. Pandora prides herself on being a simple fighter. She claims that swift action is the best solution to any problem. When in doubt, attack, she often says. Actually, she is more subtle than she leads people to believe. She always keeps track of the odds. While she often uses force to settle problems, she tries to make sure that the odds are with her. She raises the morale of any warrior maidens she's with. Right. If the party doesn't attack, they may find that the warrior maidens of Madarua are another group trying to restore the lost glories. All right, and so we already know this spiel, right? They can become full members, they can become lesser members, they can hang out in there and be quote-unquote safe. Then we have a door trap. You see an iron door at the end of the corridor. The door has 3 lightning bolts engraved on it. The door guards the ceremonial chamber of Gorm. When anyone comes within 10 feet of the door, it glows with a crackling blue light. The door is locked. Once the words, "By the great god Gorm," are spoken, the door stops glowing and it is safe to enter. Anyone who touches the door without saying the proper words automatically takes 1 to 4 points of electrical damage. The door lock can be picked by a thief willing to take damage while trying to pick the lock. So is that like a one-shot damage, or is it like every 6 seconds another shock of damage? By the great god Gorm! Alright. And then we get to the ceremonial chambers of Gorm. Unfortunately, because of the way these are labeled, it's kind of out of order. I wish they would have put all the Gorm stuff. I guess the Gorm stuff had to be split anyway, right? Because they're on different levels. Anyway. Sometimes the organization, when you're reading the key in numerical order, doesn't really match up with the experiential order of the rooms, and I think we're hitting that here. The walls, ceiling, and floor of this room have been painted sky blue. A golden marble altar surrounded by golden candle holders and braziers rests along the middle of the east wall. On top of the altar is a small stone statue of a bearded man throwing a lightning bolt. Next to the statue rests a golden bowl. These are the ceremonial chambers of Gorm. No non-members are allowed in this room. New members of the Brotherhood are initiated here. The initiation is simple. The character dresses in a white robe and ritually washes his hands in the bowl, which contains water. He draws his weapon and kneels before Gorm's altar. He then swears in law, right? This is you're in your alignment language of law, to uphold the ideals of the Brotherhood and to promote the worship of Gorm. Finally, the new member receives a tattoo of a blue lightning bolt on his right shoulder. I like the idea of swearing in law, and I think that's an interesting way to use his alignment languages, as they are binding. You are swearing upon upon the great, the exalted capital L law to uphold these principles. And so ye shall do it, or be damned. The secret door in the west wall conceals that ladder up to room 12 on tier 2. Okay, so that was tier 3. I am going to wrap it here, because I don't know if I can get through tier 4 in like the 25-ish minutes I have left. So we will call this part 1 of the Lost City read-along. So far, so good. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. I think the factions are interesting, and I don't know if it was intentional in their part, but there really is space to play around with these different factions as players. You can become members of the Brotherhood. You can wear their stuff, but you can then take down that stuff, try to get your way into one of the other factions. Of course, the module does a good job of, there are permanent features you get. You get a tattoo. You get one was the tattoo of the lightning bolts. Another one was markings on your wrist, and I forget what the third one is. But it means that, yeah, you can play around with trying to play 2 sides or 3 sides against each other for whatever reasons, but you're going to have to figure out how to cover those other traces up, because if you get caught, it's going to, blow everything to smithereens. So you got to be careful, but you can do it. There's opportunity there. I think it's also interesting how the only one that really is binding is that first one, which is the Brotherhood of Gorm. Joining them, you get kind of bound to them. They are the first ones you run into, and they are the ones that are probably the most straightforward. So it's interesting that if you do run in that first faction and decide to just go with them, you are kind of with them. And you could play around with the other factions, but you are, that helm of telepathy means that if you pick Gorm, you got to kind of stick with Gorm. So it almost rewarded by not just jumping on the first offer you get. Not that there's anything wrong with it, because you do get some, maybe the best upfront perks, as you get metal, you get chainmail and weapons, which you might not have. But then you got to be more careful if you're playing the field of the other factions, and it also benefits the party maybe to not everybody jump on a single faction. Someone can join the Brotherhood of Gorm and hopefully get the other ones in, and then you can join maybe someone else can join one of the other factions and kind of try to make inroads with them. So it gives you a reason to maybe not everybody jump in. Maybe the male fighter, yeah, sure, join the Brotherhood. You're going to get armor, you're going to get weapons, you can get stuff, but other folks maybe not become lesser members because you don't get the benefits. Maybe see what other factions are there. But anyhow, that is it for today. I got to get on to other things. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. Just to throw this out here, hey, if you like the stuff, give me the thumbs up. If you're on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube or whatever, subscribe to the channel. If you're on Facebook or one of the other services, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, give me whatever, a heart, whatever they've got. If you are on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed already, that helps me out a lot. Otherwise, we will continue this tomorrow. See you then. Game on, and I'll talk to you later.